Good Wednesday to you, everybody in Com 651. Welcome to week boom 8. We have reached the halfway mark, and that calls for just a little bit more coffee this morning. Much better. Here I am now, your sufficiently caffeinated communication instructor. How is everybody doing? All right. This next week is spring break or modular week or whatever you want to call it. So we will not have readings. We will not have questions. All right. If you haven't done so already, use this coming week, that is spring break, to go back and study the the discussion material from discussions week 1 through 8, because that will comprise the discussion material, the heart of your final examination, which is not here yet. All right, I don't want to give anybody any panic, but will be here eventually. All right, and also this week, make sure that you finish and turn in your second presentation. That is PR presentation number 2. Now I pushed that date. In fact, I'm gonna do this even as we speak. I'm going to give you, instead of having it due on the 10th, which is a Monday, because that's the same time that your questions are due. Let's see. I'll tell you what. I will push it to the middle of the week. That is the 12th. Okay. You don't have to turn it in on the 12th if you don't want to. If you want to turn it in on the 10th and just get it out of your hair, that's fine. But since, I know there's a little bit of overlap. And in fact, I think, I spoke with one of you, and you said, hey, I'm having those doubled up. It's a bit of a pile on. What can we do? So, all right. In fact, even as I'm talking to you now, I just changed the date for your second presentation, due on March 12th. Okay. This week, in terms of readings, really short readings. I want you to concentrate on finishing that second presentation. Now, take the feedback that I gave you from the first one, all right, and study it intently. If you have questions about comments that I made, or what should I do, you can either email me or call me during my office hours. I'll be happy to give my time to you. I am invested in your success. All right. Because what we're looking for is polished, finished work, no drafts. Okay, so this means you've carefully read and gotten out all the mistakes, missing words, misspellings, these sorts of things. And let me, true confession here. I'm not the best editor of my own stuff. Principally, my problem is that I have a very clear conceptualization, visualization of what I want to write. Now, interestingly, slight digression here. When I'm writing, or when I'm thinking about writing, I'd like to write a piece about this, that, and the other. I have a very difficult time seeing words as representation of writing in my head. Instead, I see something that I've tried to explain this to myself and to others. I see something that's like a kanji. These are the characters used by a number of the languages, Asiatic languages, Mandarin, Japanese. That is, where there's a symbol that represents a concept. So I have this melange, mix of shapes and colors and things that, in my mind, represent the concept that become the structure of what I write. Weird, I know, but you know what? I mean, and here now I tell you this for a couple of reasons. Number one, I understand struggling with editing, and number two, for many many years, I struggled against myself in my head. I'm like, well, no, I was told by instructors that I had to see the word, and I before E, etc., and all that stuff. I stopped fighting myself probably within my first year and a half of undergraduate school. And I just let my mind work the way it worked. And this opened up just this tremendous spillway of writing and ideas, and because writing is communication. Okay, so first of all, I understand about editing. So what did I do, and what might you do if you have a hard time catching your mistakes? Give it to somebody else. Ask them to read it. Now, don't give it to a knucklehead. Okay, give it to somebody that you know is a good proofreader. For my own stuff, I'm not a good proofreader. I mean, editors are grouped into two general categories. Okay, there are copy editors, and they just pick up mistakes. There are content editors, and they go, well, you've left this out, or this doesn't really make sense, or the arrangement of your ideas here. But they're not looking for uh, typographical errors and misspellings and mistakes. And if you don't use one of these many, there are a whole bunch of different kinds of writing programs. Grammarly, Smoke is another one, Dragon. Use them. I use them. Now, I again, sort of how my head works. I often turn them off, like deactivate them while I'm writing, because I find the underlining, the squiggly, red or yellow, and more and more, because they're trying to upsell, like Grammarly, they're trying to upsell the various packages. They'll underline a perfectly constructed sentence, or a clause, a part of a sentence, and say, for the premium price, we could make this a lot better. It's like, that distracts me. Having these little colors all sprinkled through my text, I find it distracting. So I turn it off, and then when I'm finished, I read through it myself, and then I turn it back on. Use those not to do your writing, but to become a better writer. Okay, so that's the first thing I understand about editing. I'm not a great copy editor of my own stuff, so I have other people read it. Okay, that's becoming a good communicator in whatever you're going to go into. There's PR or not. Okay, what that comes down to is you understanding yourself, and you providing yourself with the tools that you need to do you, and to do it as efficiently and effectively as possible. All right, so that's the first thing. Get somebody else, and then secondly, get out of your own way. I mean, like I said, I used to give myself a bad time about how it is I conceptualize writing, and this is wrong. Whatever goes on, up here, that allows you to perform out here effectively, that's okay. And that's not some sort of a, don't take that as an expression of immorality, like, well, however you want to think. No, remember, that lets you perform effectively, and effectively means ethically, especially here at a Christian university. All right, so you have the extra time if you want it to turn it in. You don't have to. You can turn it on the 10th. I think I've set it that you can do multiple attempts. I'll make sure that I do. And if you have any questions, get in touch with me. But remember, because there are only 4 of these, and then your final exam. This is a whole class. Okay, do a good job. I've expanded the word count. Okay, for this, do a good job. Polish this up. This is, imagine this was going out to the client. This is going out to the market. Okay, let's talk about this week. So, really short readings this week. I'm gonna have you read a very short article on SWOT analysis. Not everybody is head over heels for these things. They say that they pose some dangers. And then SWOT analysis is not the only game in town. It's not the only thing out there. There are others, noise, SOAR, SCORE, these sorts of things. I'm less concerned that you learn all of these than I am that you know about them. So if you go into the PR field, you go into the business field, and somebody says, hey, could you do a noise analysis? And you go, yeah, okay, I can do that, because you know what it is. Okay. All right, and the questions are taken from those readings. All right, last week there was no video. My I don't know if anybody else is having this problem, but I'm having a real problem with the recording feature on my YouTube channel. Go figure. So I've just picked up this freebie recorder and editor, and last week, um, when I was kind of monkeying around with it appeared to me as if the audio and the video were out of sync. So if it looks that way to you, let me know, and I'll ditch this thing and I'll go get another one. All right, or just turn off the video and listen to the dulcet tones of my voice and enjoy the audio. Okay, let's take a look at the questions from last week. See how you did. Question number one, according to your authors, what is missing from the discussion of public relations ethics? This is an interesting topic because, who's ethics, applied ethics, ethics for what? Okay. Um, let's see. Let's look at Hillary. According to Stack, the research is missing from the discussion of public relations ethics. Stack mentions that within the ethical guidelines for three major public relations associations, research is absent altogether from two. In fact, some books on public relations from the late 80s and early 90s have the words ethics missing from the index entirely. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. What's missing from from the discussion of public relations ethics is the ethics part. That is, excuse me, I think I just spit. That is, what is it that we say? What is it that we mean when we say ethics? Now, if I haven't, I may have recommended this already. All right, so if I have done so, please bear with me. But there are two books that stand out. Actually, there are four. Let me grab them. I think I'm going to grab the other two off the back of my shelf, so you're going to have to bear with me too. But anyway, in public relations, Robert Cialdini is a well-known figure. This book by him, Persuasion, not Persuasion, Persuasion, talks about how it is that you move people to do things and how it is that you present ideas to them that become palatable. He wrote that book. It's kind of a prequel. He wrote that book after he wrote this book, Influence, Science, and Practice. Now, this is not so much about public relations per se as it is about public persuasion, which is part of public relations. Okay. Now, Cialdini is very conscientious of ethics. He's saying, well, this is, I mean, he's kind of like the O.J. Simpson of PR and influence. He discusses human behavior and tactics that move people to do certain things, even some questionable behavior. And he says, well, I'm not saying that that's what I have done, but if I was to, if I were to, want to influence somebody to do X, Y, Z, that's how I would have done it because this is how people behave. Okay. So you sort of read this and you go, so did you really do this? Or you're just giving us the data about how people's brain works? Okay. So there are those who are aware that there's this big gap, okay, in public relations. There are others. Now, this, I think I'm going to have to get these books, so that, bear with me here just a second. Okay, here we go. Yeah. Yeah. There are others. Robert Greene stands out among them who say, yeah, there's a gap. Who cares? This is the real world, and this is how you get what you want. Robert Greene, if you are unaware, he's written quite a number of things, but the two books that sort of launched him up the food chain in the PR world are these two. This one called the 48 Laws of Power, and then this one, The Art of Seduction. And it's just exactly what it sounds like. That is the second one. He means, not in the sense of sexual, but how do you charm people to get what you want? I mean, it's really unethical. I'm just going to say. But he is just very bare knuckles about this, saying, "Oh well, that's just how the world works." I mean, I'll give you a for instance, okay, from his 48 Laws of Power. Law number one: never outshine the master. So just be a toady. Law number two: never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. Okay. Law number three: conceal your intentions. Law number four: always say less than necessary. Law number five: so much depends on reputation, guard it with your life. Law number six: court attention at all costs. Sort of the no publicity is bad publicity. Law number seven: get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. So on and so forth. Okay. Um, yeah. So the answer to the question is what's lacking is the research as to what the heck this means, and it's a real gap, and it creates a real problem. I'll put links to all of these, of course, in the announcement. Okay. Question number two: of the six ethical guidelines listed by Stacks, which one would you say is most important in conducting PR research, and why? Valerie, I would say that honestly, the most fundamental ethical guideline in public relations research. Oh, I would say that honesty. Okay, I'm sorry, I misread you. Since it preserves reporting, data collection, analyticals, integrity. Yeah. Now, and I picked this, Valerie, because you're absolutely right. Within not just PR, but and PR fits in the social sciences, okay? Because that's what we're doing here. But within the social sciences, there is something right now called replication crisis. Actually, it's been around for about 20 years. Everybody knows about it. Everybody talks about it. Nobody does a bloody thing. Well, what is the replication crisis? In fact, I'll give you a link about an article. Um, maybe I do or don't have it. I don't know. Anyway, to the replication crisis, and that is social scientists do research about human behavior, and they say, okay, when you do this, people do that. And then somebody else goes, oh, that's really interesting. And they come along and they look at the research, they look at how it was set up, they look at the questions they were asked that were asked, they look at the demographic to which it happened to be asked, and then they repeat it and they get wildly different results. All right. When you repeat the same measure in the same manner with the same focus group, you should get similar results within a statistically significant range. Now, without getting too far in the weeds here, statistics in quantitative research, there is something called the confidence interval. And the confidence interval is, there's an underlying belief, knowledge about how the world works, and that is the world is boringly predictable. And the reason for that is that this created order, that's material reality, was put together by a creator. This is one of the fundamental laws of the physical world. It's actually one of Newton's laws, Newtonian laws. So, for example, my coffee cup here, okay, which sadly now is empty. Okay, who who came up with the design for this cup? I don't know. What who created probably the machine, because this is just like mess. Because I have a tendency to drop cups too. Who created the machine that produced this cup? I don't know, but I don't know who designed it and who created it. But I do know that it was designed and created by someone. That is, it didn't design and create itself. Everything that is formed has a former. Okay, not former as in predecessor, but the thing that forms it. Okay, so confidence interval tells us, the confidence interval, we assume that reality is put together in an ordered, predictable way, and therefore this necessitates an ordered, predictable orderer. Okay, and that orderer, in English we call God. You can say Yahweh or Allah, what have you. And that things are so predictable that within a 95% range, 95% of the time, the thing happens the same way unless there's another force acting on it. So if you take a study and you repeat it in the same way that it was originally done, and you don't fall somewhere close to that confidence interval. In fact, you get huge swings in the outcome. This tells you that something else was acting on the outcome of that study, and that something else is probably an inept or an unethical researcher who's been manipulating the data. Okay. Now, the problem with this, first of all, in the social sciences, it just looks bad. But more significantly, is this sloppy or dishonest research then gets pushed out to the public, and researchers, whether it's in companies or in think tanks, or in congressional offices, say, well, this is just the way it is. Look, this is what the research says. And then there are laws passed, there are advertising campaigns launched that do a lot of harm. Okay, so good answer: honesty. Honesty in your methodology, honesty in how you gather and handle the data. Honesty, honesty, honesty. Question number 3. According to your authors, what are the primary ethical concerns in reporting data for PR research? Alyssa, let's take a look at you. Primary ethical concerns reporting data for public relations research revolve around maintaining the confidentiality and anonymity of participants and fulfilling promises made to them. Now, if you go on and maybe some of you already are, if you get into a course here at Regent in which you're doing research and you're doing surveys, you have to go through a little training program and get a certificate from the National Institutes of Health for human subject research. And you have to say, yes, I understand. I'm not supposed to release this data. I have to keep them confidential. I can't, researchers must avoid, let's see what else you say, must avoid revealing participants' identity under the pressure from the client seeking specific information, and should use generic identifiers when necessary. Also, researchers are ethically obligated to follow through on commitments, such as publishing finding or providing promised summaries. Failure to do so damages credibility and undermines trust. Additionally, there is an ethical obligation to release data to the public. Yeah. Don't manipulate your subjects. Okay. Don't lie to them. These are the cornerstones of ethics in research. Okay. Good answer. And if again, to follow up that thought, if you take a class here at Regent, which you do, and I encourage you to learn how to be both a good qualitative and quantitative researcher. And what you do research on actual people, you have to get a certification from the National Institutes of Health saying, yes, I've gone through the training. I understand that I'm not supposed to manipulate people. I don't reveal their identities. I guard their responses. I release in an honest way the full data set, and so on and so forth. By the by, when you're looking through research and you're looking through data gathered by researchers, here's one of the first things that I look for. You should look for too. If a research project gets written up in a paper, whatever you're studying, right? If they don't include access to the raw data, and I don't mean the whole stupid file, but at least summations, that is a dead giveaway. All right, that either this is sloppy, or it's dishonest, and that should be like ping red flag to you. Stay away from the conclusions, because you don't know if the conclusions that they're making stretch beyond the capacity of the data to support them, whether intentionally or unintentionally on the part of the researcher. Right? So watch for that. Say when you're completing your SWOT analysis, how do you know? Okay. Um, the strengths of this company. How do you know the weaknesses? How do you know the opportunities that are out there in the market? How do you know the threats? Well, you start looking through the data, and if you're trying to figure out, well, how can I be certain that this particular source is good stuff? And just because it's printed, no. One of the ways to be sure, that litmus test, is for you to see if the study includes access to all right, a summary of the raw data. We talked to this many people, they fill into this demographic. The survey, and you want to see the survey instrument. The survey instrument went like this. We processed it like that. We did these kinds of tests, et cetera, et cetera. If that stuff's missing, beware. Okay, everybody, that is enough from me today. Have a wonderful rest of the week. All right. Well, where are we now? Wednesday. So 2 more days, and then you're into spring break. If you have any questions about the second PR presentation, I'm here for you. Okay. I think about you. I pray about you. And as always, I will see you on Canvas. Bye bye.